What's up, traders? Today we're setting up market profile charts inside of Tradovate. By the end of the video, I promise you'll be able to recreate this exact layout that you see down below, and also have all of the customization knowledge you need to set whatever your own personal preferences are as well. This is, of course, the platform I'm using whenever I do market profile analysis here on the channel. Once again, this is Tradovate, and it would always be my recommendation for anyone looking to get started using market profile. With all of that being said, I'm going to clear up everything we have on our screen currently. That way we can start from scratch and really come to understand all of the settings involved in setting up the profile. So we are currently looking at a blank rendition of the Tradovate dashboard, and to load a chart to the screen, we just have to click on the little plus icon in the top left-hand corner. When we do that, we can add a module, and we of course want to add a chart module. I would point out that legacy chart is an option down at the bottom as well. However, they did not offer the market profile in that specific package, so please use the one up at the top. I'm going to click and drag that to the middle of the screen, and when I let go, we have a new chart window. I want to load up a symbol. I'm going to use the ES for the S&P 500 futures. You can select whatever symbol it is that you want to trade, and we now have a chart. Now notice, it looks kind of funky, right? All of our candlesticks are basically a flat line up here. You may or may not run into this issue, but don't worry, there is a one-click solution. All we have to do is hover our cursor in the top left-hand side of the screen and go to where it says Chart Settings. It looks like a square made out of a dashed line. When I click here, we just want to go to Auto Fit Chart. When I click on that, the price action is back to normal. A couple of other quick tips here is that you can click anywhere on the screen and drag the price action around. I can use my mouse wheel in and out to expand and contract the time axis, and I can do the same thing in the price axis. However, my cursor must be in the price axis, right? As soon as it moves back to the chart, I'm back to adjusting time. So those are a couple of tips, but how do we actually make this into a TPO market profile looking chart? Very simple. There's two ways. One of them will be fairly straightforward. The other one will unlock all of the settings. So the first way is to click on the icon directly to the left of the box we use to autofit. Mine looks like a candlestick icon because of course we have a candlestick chart. If you happen to have something else like a bar chart, you'll probably have the bar icon, or a line chart, the line icon. It doesn't really matter, but if you go to that menu icon, get into chart type, we want to select TPO down at the very bottom. When I select that, you'll notice that now we have market profile looking charts in front of our very eyes. Pretty cool. Now the other thing is that the autofit function will also work for the market profile. Look at that. This is looking much better than just that one profile kind of stuck here in the right-hand side of the screen. So that's the first way that we can achieve market profile charts, but we didn't get into the settings menu. So where is all of that stuff? Well, I'm going to show you that method as well. I'm going to turn this back to a candlestick chart. And now what we want to use is the little gear icon directly to the right of the chart settings tab. It says configure chart elements. When I click on that, I want to configure the price action. So I'm going to click on that option, and we're going to change from candlestick once again to TPO. And notice that our options, our settings essentially down below, are reflecting those available for a TPO or market profile type chart. I'm going to click save just so we can see that change take effect. And there we go. Once again, we have the market profile loaded up. Before we jump into the settings, I want to quickly describe what I have set up here. We have the regular trading hours session set in white with capital letters, and the after hours session set in a darker gray with lowercase letters. The other thing we have set up here is the volume profile in a dim yellow, the value area is in a brighter yellow, and the point of control even brighter, more of a neon color yellow. We also have the halfbacks highlighted with a purple line here, and you can see the same thing in the after hours session, and we even have the open and close also. Let me expand one of these profiles here so you can see this. So maybe this is going to show up on your screen, maybe it won't. But right here, there's an arrow pointing to the right. That's going to indicate the open. And right here, there's an arrow pointing to the left. That's going to indicate the close. On a light background, so not dark mode, if your chart background's white, this will be much, much easier to see. I promise you that. So I'm going to set this back to auto so we can see kind of a couple of profiles in a row here. Now let's dive into these settings, right? All we have to do is click back into the gear, into our price action, and now we have the chart editor window. From here, we're just going to walk through them one by one, okay? So for display, I would always recommend that you use letter. The other option here is to use block, but if I show you block, notice that we can't see what period is what, right? Like I have no idea when I'm looking at the block profile, where's A period, where's B period, where's, F period or N period towards the end of the day, right? I just don't have that information, so I wouldn't recommend using block. I'm gonna go back into the settings. This is gonna get a little bit redundant. You're gonna really know where these settings exist. Anyways, back to letter, okay? I'm gonna press apply, and we'll see that change take effect in the background. No need to save just yet. The next setting is for the box size, or the letter size essentially, of the profile. And I would always recommend that you just leave that on auto. That way you don't have to manually worry about sizing these things. Next up, we're going to get into the sessions first, and then we'll talk about colorizing the sessions. So as I pointed out, I have two sessions. Session 1 is the regular trading hours session from 9:30 to 4:30, 16:30 in terms of military time. And then we have session 2 from 4:30 until 9:30 the next morning. You'll also notice that my regular trading hour session starts with a capital A, and the lowercase a is reserved, and the lowercase letters, that is, are reserved for the after hours session, or session number 2. Here's how you colorize these sessions now. And by the way, to add a session, like if you don't have session 2 set up, you just click add session, and you can change the time frame right in here. To delete a session, it's as simple as clicking delete session, and now it's no longer there. So that's how you get both of them set up. And again, 9:30 to 4:30, 4:30 to 9:30. The color's pretty self-explanatory. You can set the entire color of session number 1 with this master sort of control. Notice that if I make this red, and we'll click save, now the regular trading hours session is changed to red. It's as simple as that. Back into our settings. Once again, you're going to get really familiar with that gear. I'm going to change back to white, but I want to illustrate a different concept. There's this per letter option up at the very top. If I select that, we can make some fairly interesting changes here, and this is going to be literally colorizing your profile per letter. If I change A, so let's say red, let's change B to, let's say, green, and we'll just go one more with C to some blue color, right? So a light blue, that way it shows up on our black background. I'll press save, and now you'll notice that our A period is set to red, our B period, it's pretty clear right here, is set to green, and the C period is set to blue in each of our profiles. So it's something that you can do. I personally don't want my profiles to look like a rainbow, so it's not something that I personally use, but you can set up that capability here. And of course, the same would work for your after hours session if you were to click on any of the lowercase letters and change their colors there. I'm going to turn per letter back off, and we're going to continue on here. The next thing we have is the initial balance. Now, the initial balance is something that I don't personally use, but you're basically looking for the range of the first interval that you set. So you can make it 1 profile letter, so that would be A period. If I change it to 2, that's A and B period, so on and so forth, right? I'm going to change it back to 1. And we'll note that the color is blue. You can change it to whatever your heart's content, but it will not show up on your chart unless you add a width to define it. So for me, it's set to 0, meaning it will not show up. If I change this to something like, let's say, 5 pixels wide and press save, now you'll notice that we have this blue bar indicating the initial balance. So this is going to be the exact height of the A period. So that's what the initial balance is. That's how you set it up and kind of turn it on. We're going to go back into our settings, and I want to talk about extensions here. So you can add an extension to the initial balance. If I click add extension, we're going to use a percentage to determine what that extension is. I'm going to try 50% for the sake of today's video, and we're going to change the color so we can see where the extension is by making it green. I'm going to press save, and what you'll notice now is that we have the initial balance in blue, and then if you take half of that initial balance and stack it on the bottom and stack the other 50% on the top, that is the extension. Again, not something that I personally use, but it is a possibility if you're interested in setting something like that up. I'm going to go back into our settings. We are going to turn off the extension, so delete. And I'm also going to set the width of the initial balance back to 0 pixels, so it's no longer enabled. And our next major section to get into is regarding the TPO portion of the market profile. Do you want your point of control to be highlighted? And if so, what color? For me, the point of control is highlighted in white, which is going to make it incredibly difficult to see on this background. But again, if you were looking at a light background, so a white chart background, then these colors would show up much more vibrantly. Like you could set this to red and it would look great. The other thing you can do is extend it, okay? So let me just illustrate what this is. I'm going to press extend and we'll press save. And now you'll notice, I'm not sure if this is even getting picked up on your screen here, but notice that in this white box that I just drew, as I'm drawing the box, you probably can't see it anymore. There's a red extension of the point of control from the TPO market profile, just meaning the thickest portion of the profile was right here, and that's extending into the future indefinitely, so you can see when you're tagging up on the profiles. If I move the cursor kind of off the screen and let your eyes focus on it, maybe you can see that now, maybe not, but again, this will be much more clear on a white background chart. Again, the extension is turned on, and it will only disappear once the following sessions actually take out that extension. So back into the settings, back into our price action, we're going to turn this back to white. I'm going to turn the extension off, and now we're going to talk about value area. I keep mine turned on. The percentage is usually 70%. That's just kind of the industry standard. I turn my color highlight off, okay? And I also do not draw it as a bar, but let me illustrate what those two things do. I'm going to turn the highlight on, and I am going to draw it as a bar. We're going to change the bar width from this crazy 99 pixels down to about 10 pixels. I'll press save, and now you can see that the value area on the TPO portion is not only highlighted, again, you can see that dim yellow highlight from here to here, stretching the entire width of this box that I've just drawn, but we also have the bar that we set to, what was it, 10 pixels or 5 pixels, I can't remember, but that's where it's showing up. Let me illustrate that we can change the color as well. Pretty self-explanatory stuff, right? So TPO value area, we want to change the color. Let's try red once again to see how that looks on the black background. When I press save, you'll notice it's fairly dim still, but the bar is showing up as red now. That's how you control that aspect. Next up, let's go back into our settings, turn that value area back to a reasonable looking color. So I'm going to go back to a yellow. That's fine. I'm not going to highlight, and I am not going to draw it as a bar. The next thing we have to contend with is the volume profile. Now this one is going to act very similar to the TPO profile, but I would recommend that you set your colors up strategically here. You do of course want to enable the volume profile. If yours isn't showing up for some reason, make sure it's enabled. Watch, if I turn this off and we press save, notice how now we don't have any volume profiles. That's no good. So let's go back and turn that on, and we'll start talking about some of the settings there. So volume profile, enable that. The darker color is going to be the entirety of the volume profile. Underneath that, we have the point of control, which again should be enabled, and that's going to be that neon color. Again, I can extend that just like the TPO point of control, and I'll just do that to illustrate that as an example. And then we have the value area, right? And this color wants to be set to a brighter color, or at least I would prefer it be set to a brighter color than the entirety of the volume profile. That way we can see it pop. And you do want it to be highlighted. I would not recommend that you draw it as a bar, but it is an option, and I'm sure you can imagine by now what that would do. So that's how I have mine set up. Again, the percentage point is going to be 70 percentage points to create the value area. And then the last thing that we haven't discussed, and you may be saying, what is that all about, is this right here for label. Let me show you what that is, and do just keep in mind that the only change we've made here is to extend the point of control. I'm going to press save. And just like that, you can see these lightsaber lines going on and on now. Notice again, as soon as we trade through it in a subsequent session, the extension is no longer valid, right? So if prices were to come all the way from up here down to this area and take out that point of control, this would no longer extend. That's all the extension does. That's kind of how it works. So we turned that on. What else can we do? Let's go ahead and tweak some colors here. So we're going to go back into the chart settings, back down. Oh, I wanted to discuss label. That's what it was. My apologies here. So we're going to show you what that label is. That is what I meant to do. Sorry for getting sidetracked. Anyways, the label, if I turn my profile, way up here and zoom in, is going to be the amount of contracts that went through at a specific price. Notice how it's a sort of neutral gray. If we change this now, so now we can mess with some colors here. I'm going to go down to where it says label. I'm going to make it black. This will be a very obvious change. So if I press save, now you'll notice that all of the numbers in the volume bars are set to black. Pretty self-explanatory. That's how you control that. An extremely useful part of market profile is seeing how many contracts went through at a specific price. Back into, well, actually, before we get back into the settings, let's just auto fit this so we're not looking at something crazy anymore. And let's clean this up a little bit, right? I really don't like that extension, and I want to talk about the colorization of the volume profile value area as well. So we're going to turn the extension on the volume point of control off by doing that. And we can invert our colors here. So again, you can knock yourself out. You can play around with these colors as much or as little as you'd like. I'm going to change this to a brighter looking blue. We're going to change the value area color to a darker looking blue. Okay, so this should invert what our volume area looks like. I'm going to press save. And now you'll notice again that the brighter area is going to be the entire profile. The darker area is the value area. And once again, we have our neon yellow point of control. So you can set that up however you'd like. Hopefully by now you've gotten pretty familiar with all of our options in here. The last couple of things that we can do is add the open and close triangles by just ticking these boxes. You can change them to whatever color you would like. On the black background, white is probably your best bet. Even still, it will be difficult to see. On a lighter background, any other color should work. The midline is the halfback that we mentioned earlier. And once again, you can simply change this color to whatever it is that you would like. Let's just change the midline to a pink kind of fuchsia color like that. And we'll just press save to see that take change. There is your midline, your halfback area in both the after hours and regular trading hours sessions. And then we'll just go back into the settings to round out the last few options at the very bottom, which just have to do with actually trading. So you can choose to show your fills on the market profile chart. The buy fills show up as blue, the sell fills show up as orange. And then if you complete a trade, so you buy and sell or sell and then buy back to cover, you will get a trade line if you check that box as well. If you made money, it will show up as green. If you lose money, it will show up as red. The very last thing all the way down at the bottom is fairly important here, the minimum number of bars to load. This is set to 10 right now, but this is not what I want and not what I would recommend. I would always recommend that you max this out and use 9,999. That's the biggest value we can put in there. And basically what that's going to do is give us the most amount of data to be looking at. So please make sure that you make that change if you're looking at market profile. I'm going to press save. And just like that, not much has changed. We didn't really change any settings, but here's the profile, right? The last thing I want to leave you with is setting up templates. So if I come into our template list, which is the icon all the way to the right, I can click here and I can save this template. Okay, so if I click Save Template, I'll write test, because that's what we're doing. We're testing this out for the video. I'll press save, and now we're using test. If I want to go back to my original sort of template that I had, it's this one right here. So regular trading hours plus extended hours. If I click on that, notice how it's right back to what we had earlier. And that's a quick shortcut to sort of saving your preferences, saving multiple preferences here inside of Tradovate. That's ultimately going to wrap up today's tutorial. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, let me know down below in the comments section, or just simply give the video a thumbs up. If you have any other requests for tutorial-based videos, let me know down there as well. I'll try to hit as many of them as I can. With all of that being said, I wish you the best of luck with Tradovate, the best of luck with trading futures, the market profile, all of that good stuff, and I hope to see you in the next one.